Picture Ironwood Creek, early 1980s. A town huddled in the hollows of the Rust Belt, wrapped in perpetually gray skies that seem to mirror its prospects. Main Street tells the story. Storefronts wear plywood like bandages over broken windows. The looming silence of the Sterling Mill on the edge of town is a constant, heavy reminder of better days, of jobs lost and futures rerouted. This isn't a place where dreams are easily forged anymore. Yet, beneath the surface of economic hardship, a current of resilience persists. It's in the shared nods between neighbors, the pots of soup passed over back fences, the stubborn geraniums blooming on weathered porches. It's a town holding its breath, waiting for something. In a small house on Pine Street, cleaner than most, but just as worn, lives Leo Miller. He's 15, lean, with eyes that seem to take everything in, quietly observing the world from beneath a fringe of brown hair. An orphan since he was small, his world revolves around this house and the woman inside, Eleanor Vance. Ellie, his guardian. She's got the kind of practical warmth that comes from a life spent making do. Leo walks in, shaking off the damp chill clinging to his thin jacket after finishing his paper route. The smell of brewing coffee and old wood fills the small kitchen. Ellie sits at the table, a pile of mending beside her, spectacles perched on her nose.
Back, Ellie. Anything good in the mail? Or just bills?
Looking up, offering a faint smile. Just the usual symphony, Leo. Gas, electric. The choir's all present and accounted for. Don't you worry your head about it. We'll manage. Always do. Get yourself warmed up. Supper's almost ready.
Ellie pushes a stray gray hair back from her forehead. Decades spent working the looms at the Sterling Mill, before it closed, etched lines of fatigue onto her face. But her hands, though worn, are steady. She took Leo in without a second thought when his parents were gone, raising him on a shoestring budget and fierce, unspoken love. Her worry for him is a quiet hum beneath her practical exterior. She wants more for him than the slow decline Ironwood Creek seems to offer.
Okay. Did Mrs. Gable drop off that casserole she mentioned? Her hip was bothering her again yesterday.
She did, bless her heart. Said you helped carry her groceries last week. You're a good boy, Leo. Responsible. Just don't take the world onto your shoulders just yet, eh? Plenty of time for that later.
Leo nods, picking up his school books from the counter where he dropped them. He knows Ellie shields him from the worst of the worries, stretches every dollar until it cries. That's why he picked up the paper route, why he helps out sometimes down at the diner on weekends. Every little bit helps. It's a quiet understanding between them, a partnership forged in necessity and affection. Their life is modest, sometimes precarious, held together by Ellie's grit and Leo's quiet determination. It's a routine existence, marked by the seasons and the slow rhythm of a town trying to keep its head above water. But even routines have fault lines, and sometimes the smallest crack can let in the most surprising light. For Leo, that crack appeared near the old railway bridge. Leo's days had a rhythm, dictated by school bells and the clatter of dishes at the diner. It was on one such afternoon, cutting through the overgrown path by the silent railway bridge, that he saw him. The bridge, like so much in Ironwood Creek, was a monument to what used to be, thick steel beams now surrendering to rust, tracks vanishing into weeds. It was a shortcut home, but one most people avoided. Beneath the span, huddled against the crumbling concrete abutment, as if seeking shelter from a wind only he could feel, sat an older man. He was dressed in clothes that looked like they'd seen too many seasons, a worn tweed coat inadequate for the autumn chill, trousers frayed at the cuff. He wasn't moving, just staring blankly at the muddy creek water below. Leo slowed his pace. Ellie's voice echoed in his mind, the usual warnings about strangers, about keeping to himself. This man looked rough, but there was something else, too. A stillness about him that wasn't just exhaustion, but a deeper kind of lostness. Leo clutched the remaining half of the tuna sandwich he'd saved from his diner shift, wrapped in wax paper. His stomach growled faintly, but looking at the stranger, the hunger felt different. He hesitated, took a breath, and stepped closer, his worn sneakers crunching softly on the gravel path.
Excuse me? Mister?
The man didn't react at first. Leo shifted his weight, feeling awkward. He tried again, a little louder.
Mister? Are you all right?
The man slowly lifted his head. His eyes, when they finally focused on Leo, were startlingly sharp, though clouded with weariness. His face was unshaven, etched with lines that spoke of more than just age. He regarded Leo with open suspicion, his voice raspy when he finally spoke.
What do you want, kid? Selling something?
No. No, sir. I saw you sitting here. You look like maybe you haven't eaten in a while. I have this.
Leo held out the half sandwich. It suddenly felt small and inadequate. The man stared at it, then back at Leo, his gaze searching, intense. It felt like he was looking right through him.
Why? What's it to you?
Nothing. It's not much, but maybe it helps. Please. Take it.
He pushed the sandwich a little closer. The man's eyes flickered. Surprise? Cynicism? It was impossible to tell. For a long moment, he just looked at the offering, then at the earnest, slightly anxious face of the teenager holding it out. Then, slowly, almost reluctantly, he reached out a hand, surprisingly steady despite his appearance, and took the sandwich half. He didn't offer thanks, just gave a curt, dismissive nod. Leo backed away slightly, feeling a prickle of unease mixed with relief.
Okay. Well, hope things get better.
Leo turned and started walking away, glancing back once over his shoulder. The man, Arthur Sterling, though Leo had no way of knowing that, hadn't moved. He was just holding the sandwich, looking down at it as if it were some strange artifact. Leo hurried on, the encounter already feeling surreal, just another odd moment in Ironwood Creek. He had no idea he'd just set in motion a chain of events that would alter the course of his life, starting with a phone call made from an expensive car idling just out of sight, miles away from the rusting railway bridge. The image of the boy stayed with Arthur Sterling long after the taste of the simple sandwich faded. Back in the city, a call was made. Instructions given, precise and quiet, to a man accustomed to executing complex directives without question, his longtime lawyer, Mr. Harrison. Harrison, listening on the other end, perhaps raised a questioning eyebrow at the unusual request. Find an unknown boy in a forgotten Rust Belt town based on a brief encounter near some railway tracks. But his voice betrayed nothing. Find the boy who shared his lunch. Discreetly. Within days, methodical inquiries led Mr. Harrison not just to Ironwood Creek, but to Pine Street, and finally, to the small, faded blue house where Ellie Vance kept watch over her world and her boy. The arrival of the polished black sedan, gleaming incongruously against the backdrop of peeling paint and patched roofs, did not go unnoticed. Curtains twitched next door. When the knock came, firm and confident, Ellie opened it to find a man whose tailored suit probably cost more than her entire monthly budget. Mr. Harrison offered a polite, professional smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Leo, halfway through his homework at the kitchen table, looked up, curious.
Mrs. Eleanor Vance. My name is Harrison. May I have a moment of your time? I represent a client who has taken an interest in your grandson, Leo Miller.
Eyes narrowing slightly, hand resting protectively on the doorframe. Leo? What interest would anyone have in Leo? We keep to ourselves, Mr. Harrison.
My client prefers anonymity. However, they were recently deeply impressed by an act of generosity and character shown by your grandson. As a result, my client wishes to make a proposition. A significant one.
Harrison stepped inside at Ellie's hesitant nod, the cramped living room suddenly feeling smaller, filled with the scent of expensive leather from his briefcase. Leo watched, wide-eyed, from the table. Harrison laid out the offer with practiced smoothness. A full scholarship for Leo to attend Sterling Academy, the imposing private school on the hill whose grounds were as far removed from Pine Street as the moon. Furthermore, a generous monthly stipend for Mrs. Vance herself, to ensure her comfort and allow Leo to focus entirely on his studies.
Voice tight with pride and suspicion, Sterling Academy? Mr. Harrison, we don't accept charity. Leo is a good boy, works hard for what he gets. We manage just fine.
This isn't charity, Mrs. Vance. It's an investment in potential. My client believes Leo possesses qualities that deserve nurturing. The stipend is merely to remove any practical obstacles to his education. No strings attached.
Almost whispering, Sterling Academy.
Leo couldn't comprehend it. Sterling Academy was where the children of the few remaining wealthy families in the region went. It was another world. Mr. Harrison, sensing the stunned silence, placed a thick envelope and a business card on the table.
Please, take some time to consider it. The details are all in here. You can reach me at this number should you have any questions. My client is quite sincere.
And then he was gone, leaving the scent of polish and money lingering in the air. The black car pulled away smoothly, leaving silence in its wake. Leo stared at the envelope as if it might bite. Ellie sank onto a kitchen chair, her face pale. The silence stretched, thick with disbelief and unspoken fears. Finally, Ellie spoke, her voice trembling slightly with anger.
Sterling Academy, of all the nerve, funded by the same family that shut down the mill, put half this town out of work, including me. They offer us crumbs now? A scholarship? Blood money, more like. We don't need their kind of help, Leo. It always comes with a price.
But Ellie, a chance like this. I could get out. Make something of myself. Isn't that what you always wanted?
Not like this. Not owing them anything. They look down on people like us, Leo. You'd be miserable there. They'd eat you alive.
Maybe it wouldn't be like that. Maybe it's just a chance. My only chance.
The dilemma hung heavy between them. The unbelievable proposition from an anonymous benefactor, tied to the very name synonymous with Ironwood Creek's decline. Ellie finally nodded, her eyes full of worry and a fierce hope she barely dared to acknowledge. For Leo, it felt like stepping onto a moving train, destination unknown. Sterling Academy. The name itself felt like another world. A world he was about to enter, ready or not. The yes hung in the air for days, heavy with hope and fear. Then came the new uniform, carefully pressed but still feeling foreign. The bus ride that left the familiar gray streets of Ironwood Creek behind, and the imposing wrought iron gates of Sterling Academy. It wasn't just a new school. It felt like stepping onto another planet. Manicured lawns stretched out like emerald carpets, leading up to a grand brick building that seemed to look down imperiously on the town below. Laughter echoed across the quad, bright, confident laughter that sounded entirely different from the muted conversations on Pine Street. Leo Miller clutched his worn backpack straps, feeling shrinkingly small, acutely aware that his shoes were scuffed and his haircut was courtesy of Ellie's kitchen scissors, not a high-end salon. The air hummed with an energy he couldn't quite decipher. Privilege, perhaps, or just the casual assurance of belonging. He navigated the polished hallways, trying to appear invisible, searching for his assigned homeroom, the murmur of unfamiliar voices washing over him. He found a quiet corner near the lockers, pretending to check his schedule, just trying to breathe. Leo looked up. A girl with friendly eyes and a cascade of reddish-brown hair tied back in a loose ponytail was smiling at him. She gestured with a textbook.
You look a little overwhelmed. First day? I'm Chloe Jenkins, by the way.
Boys quiet. Yeah. Leo Miller. I'm new. It's a lot bigger than my old school.
Tell me about it. Felt like a maze my first week. What's your homeroom? Maybe I can point you in the right direction. Hey, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. Most people are okay once you get past the initial impressions.
Before Leo could respond, another voice cut through the hallway chatter, loud and laced with disdain. Marcus Thorne, flanked by two similarly preppy-looking boys, swaggered towards them. Marcus had the kind of expensive haircut and bored expression that seemed standard issue among the school's elite. He barely glanced at Chloe, his eyes fixing on Leo with blatant assessment.
Well, look what the scholarship fund dragged in. Didn't think they actually let people from Ironwood Creek through the gates unless they were mowing the lawns. You must be Miller. Heard my father complaining about the board wasting money on charity cases.
Leo felt his face flush hot. He instinctively took a step back, dropping his gaze. Chloe shot Marcus a sharp look.
Lay off, Marcus. Seriously? It's his first day.
Smirking at Leo, ignoring Chloe, just offering a welcome. Wouldn't want our little project to feel out of place, would we? Though, looking at those shoes, maybe you already do. Try not to scuff the floors, Miller. They cost more than your house.
Marcus and his friends laughed, moving on down the hall, leaving a trail of uncomfortable silence. Leo stared fixedly at the floor tiles, his fists clenched inside his pockets. He could feel other students glancing over, whispering. Chloe sighed.
Ignore him. Seriously. He's a jerk. His dad owns half the businesses left standing downtown and thinks that makes Marcus royalty. He's just insecure.
Muttering, yeah. Okay.
Hey. She touched his arm gently. Don't let him get to you. Just focus on why you're here, right? Come on, let's find that homeroom.
The rest of the day was a blur of navigating unfamiliar corridors, trying to decipher teachers' expectations, and avoiding Marcus Thorne's gaze. In the cafeteria, Leo unwrapped the simple sandwich Ellie had packed, acutely aware of the elaborate lunches around him. Marcus made a point of walking past his table.
Still eating peasant food, Miller? Guess old habits die hard. Or maybe that's all the stipend covers. Huh?
Leo didn't look up, just kept eating, concentrating on the taste of the bread, blocking out the Snickers from Marcus's table. Each interaction was a small sting, a reminder of the gulf between his world and this one. Each day felt like a tightrope walk between the incredible opportunity Ellie saw and the social ostracization she had feared. Leo clung to his studies and Chloe's tentative friendship, unaware that his quiet endurance was about to be tested in a far more dramatic and dangerous way. Each day was a tightrope walk between opportunity and ostracization. Leo clung to his studies and Chloe's tentative friendship, unaware that his quiet endurance was about to be tested in a far more dramatic and dangerous way. It happened during preparations for the annual Sterling Academy Science Exposition. The cavernous old workshop, usually echoing with the careful guidance of Mr. Henderson, the physics teacher, buzzed with a less supervised, slightly chaotic energy as students rushed to finish their projects. Marcus Thorne, naturally, was holding court, boasting about the supposedly advanced robotics kit his father had imported for him. He fiddled impatiently with wires and a power source, ignoring the safety goggles dangling around his neck, eager to demonstrate its capabilities to his usual audience. Chloe, working nearby on a simpler circuit board, glanced over nervously.
Hey Marcus, maybe slow down? Mr. Henderson said specifically not to overload that power pack.
Scoffs, relax, Jenkins. I know what I'm doing. Unlike some people who are probably still figuring out how batteries work. This is cutting-edge stuff. Watch this.
He jammed another connection into the already overloaded board. There was a sudden, sharp crackle, a bright blue flash, and then smoke. Acrid, electrical smoke billowed up from the power pack, followed by small, hungry flames licking at a pile of stray schematics and wood shavings on the workbench. Panic erupted instantly. Someone screamed. A couple of students bolted for the door, shouting for Mr. Henderson. Others just backed away, eyes wide with fear, unsure what to do as the flames grew, threatening to catch on to nearby solvent containers. Marcus himself stumbled back, coughing, his face pale with shock and fear, staring uselessly at the fire he'd started. But Leo Miller reacted differently. While others scattered or froze, something clicked inside him. Years of helping Ellie manage small household crises, of fixing things with limited resources, had ingrained a practical calm. He saw the red fire extinguisher mounted on the far wall. He moved towards it purposefully, calmly shouldering past a panicked sophomore.
Voice sharp, clear, everyone stay back. Cover your mouths if you can. Someone open the far windows. Now.
His voice, usually quiet, cut through the noise with unexpected authority. He hefted the heavy extinguisher, quickly scanned the instructions, remembering the PASS acronym from a school safety drill, pulled the pin, aimed the nozzle low at the base of the flames, and squeezed the handle. A cloud of white chemical powder shot out, smothering the fire with surprising speed. He swept the nozzle back and forth until only smoldering embers and thick, white dust remained. Just then, Mr. Henderson burst through the door, followed by the students who had run for help, his face grim. The immediate danger was over, but the air hung thick with smoke and the lingering smell of burnt plastic and chemicals. Students were coughing, eyes watering. Marcus Thorne stood frozen near the workbench, covered in a fine layer of extinguisher powder, staring at Leo with an unreadable expression, a mixture of humiliation, fear, and dawning disbelief. He didn't say a word. Leo lowered the extinguisher, his arms trembling slightly from the adrenaline and the weight, his own face smudged with soot. He met Marcus's gaze for a brief second before looking away, checking quickly to ensure no stray embers remained. Chloe rushed over, relief washing over her face.
Leo. Are you okay? That was, wow. You were amazing.
Quietly, still catching his breath, I'm fine. Just glad it didn't spread.
Mr. Henderson took charge, assessing the damage, his sharp questions directed primarily at a still silent Marcus. Other students gathered around, no longer whispering about Leo's background, but about what had just happened. They looked at him differently now, not with hostility, but with a grudging, surprised respect. The sirens faded in the distance, the emergency services having been called and then waved off. An uneasy quiet settled over the workshop, thick with the smell of smoke and unspoken realizations. Marcus was safe, potentially saved from serious injury or worse, thanks to the quick, calm action of the boy he'd relentlessly mocked. In the charged air, something had irrevocably shifted. Respect, unexpectedly and dramatically earned, began to replace scorn. Word of what happened in the workshop spread through Sterling Academy like wildfire, the initial smoke replaced by buzzing speculation. The narrative, perhaps gaining a little polish with each retelling, cast Leo Miller in an entirely new light. The quiet boy from Ironwood Creek, the scholarship kid, was suddenly something else. Someone who acted while others panicked. The dismissive glances softened into curious observation, the whispers lost their edge. Some students started offering tentative smiles, a quiet hello in the hallways. And for Marcus Thorne, the world had tilted uncomfortably on its axis. He seemed quieter in the days that followed, his usual swagger diminished, avoiding Leo's path whenever possible. Then, one afternoon, Leo was packing his bag after physics class when Marcus appeared beside him, looking fixedly at a point somewhere over Leo's shoulder.
Looks up, surprised. Yeah, Thorne?
Look about the other day, in the workshop.
Marcus shifted his weight, shoving his hands deep into the pockets of his expensive blazer. It was clearly costing him an effort.
It was stupid. What I did. Could have been bad. Real bad. And you, well, you didn't have to do that. So, thanks. Okay.
Meeting his gaze steadily, it's okay, Thorne. Just glad nobody got seriously hurt. Forget about it.
Nods curtly, still not quite meeting Leo's eyes. Right? Yeah. Well, see ya.
Marcus turned and walked away quickly, leaving Leo looking after him thoughtfully. It wasn't exactly a heartfelt apology, but coming from Marcus Thorne, it felt monumental. Chloe Jenkins appeared at Leo's elbow as Marcus disappeared around the corner.
Did I just witness what I think I witnessed? Marcus Thorne eating humble pie? Might be a first. You okay after all that, by the way? He was a real piece of work.
Smiling faintly, I'm fine, Chloe. Really. And maybe he's not all bad. Just complicated?
Maybe. Still wouldn't trust him farther than I could throw him. But hey, at least he knows who pulled his butt out of the fire, literally. Everyone does. Things feel different now, don't they?
Chloe was right. The incident, unwelcome as it was, had shifted the tides. Leo felt the change, the subtle easing of tension, the occasional inclusion in study groups, the absence of overt hostility. He was no longer just an outsider defined by his scholarship. He was Leo Miller, the guy who kept his cool. Buoyed by this fragile acceptance, Leo poured his energy into his studies. Mr. Henderson, the physics teacher, took a particular interest, offering extra help and encouragement. Leo found himself understanding complex theories, even enjoying the challenge. His grades climbed steadily. On a weekend visit back to Ironwood Creek, sitting in Ellie's warm kitchen, he carefully recounted some of his week, focusing on a good test grade, a challenging project, mentioning Chloe. He downplayed the workshop incident, knowing Ellie would worry.
And Mr. Henderson said my grasp of thermodynamics is really improving. He thinks I might even have a shot at the advanced placement class next year.
Eyes bright with pride, though her hands busy darning one of his socks. Advanced placement? Oh, Leo, that's wonderful. I knew you could do it. You always were smart as a whip. You settling in okay otherwise? No more trouble?
Nodding, managing a reassuring smile. No trouble, Ellie. Really. It's getting easier. People are mostly okay. Chloe's nice.
That's good. That's good to hear. Just don't forget who you are, Leo. Don't let that fancy place change the good heart inside you.
I won't, Ellie. Promise.
He hadn't forgotten. He simply kept his head down, worked hard, and treated others with the quiet respect Ellie had instilled in him. It turned out that resilience and character spoke louder than any insult Marcus Thorne could throw. The halls of Sterling Academy no longer felt quite so alien. Leo had found his footing, not by changing who he was, but by proving its quiet worth. The path ahead was clearer now, leading beyond Ironwood Creek, towards a future Ellie had only dreamed of for him, a future in medicine. Sterling Academy became a memory, a stepping stone rather than a destination. Leo graduated, not just with honors, but with a clear sense of purpose, forged in hardship and polished by opportunity. The years unfolded quickly after that, marked by the rhythm of semesters, exams, and hurried weekend visits back to Ironwood Creek. Leo poured himself into his pre-med studies at the State University, fueled by caffeine, sheer determination, and the quiet pride in Ellie's voice over the phone. He worked part-time jobs, stocking library shelves, washing test tubes in a research lab. Anything to lessen the financial burden, though the anonymous benefactor's support, channeled discreetly through Mr. Harrison, continued without fail. Campus life was another new world, vibrant and demanding, a stark contrast to the slow, weary pace of his hometown. Yet, Ironwood Creek remained his anchor. During one visit, sitting in Ellie's familiar kitchen while she carefully peeled potatoes, the smell of roasting chicken filling the air, Leo spoke about his decision, finally articulating the why behind the grueling hours.
It was the physiology class, Ellie. Learning how everything works, or doesn't. And then volunteering at the student clinic, seeing people who waited too long because they couldn't afford a checkup, or because the nearest specialist was hours away. It just clicked. I want to be able to help. Really help. Maybe even back here someday. Places like Ironwood Creek, they deserve good doctors too.
Pauses her peeling, looking at him, her eyes shining. Oh, Leo. A doctor. My Leo, a doctor. Your parents, they would have been so proud. I'm so proud. It's a hard road, mind you. Long years.
I know. It's okay. It feels right. Worth it.
Ellie smiled, reaching over to pat his hand, but Leo noticed the slight tremor in her fingers, the way she sometimes caught her breath after climbing the stairs. Small signs she always brushed off, but signs nonetheless. Tom was moving differently for them both. Leo's world was expanding, accelerating towards a demanding future, while Ellie's seemed to be gently, inevitably, contracting. He made sure to maintain contact, as requested, through Mr. Harrison's office. A brief, formal phone call twice a year.
Voice crisp, professional over the line, Mr. Miller. Harrison here. Just confirming receipt of your fall semester grades. Excellent results, as always. My client is pleased with your progress. Anything further to report?
No, Mr. Harrison. Just continuing to work hard. And I remain incredibly grateful for the opportunity. Please pass on my sincere thanks to the benefactor.
Gratitude noted, Mr. Miller. We trust you will continue to make the most of this investment. Keep us apprised of any changes. Good day.
The calls were always brief, professional, maintaining the distance the anonymous client clearly desired. Leo sometimes wondered about the man by the railway bridge, the stranger whose brief moment of being seen had so profoundly altered Leo's life. But Mr. Harrison offered no clues. Leo pushed the thoughts aside and focused on the path ahead: organic chemistry, anatomy, MCAD preparation, medical school applications. He was accepted into a prestigious program. The boy from Ironwood Creek, raised in the shadow of the silent mill, was on his way to becoming a physician. He poured himself into his studies, driven by a promise made years ago in that small kitchen. But as his future brightened, a shadow lengthened back home. Ellie's resilient spirit couldn't entirely mask the toll the years, and perhaps the dust from the old mill, had taken. Leo poured himself into his final year of medical school, the grueling demands of internship rotations consuming his days and nights. He spoke to Ellie every Sunday, her voice sometimes sounding tired over the crackling line, but always full of encouragement. He tried to ignore the growing knot of worry, pushing it down beneath layers of exhaustion and medical charts. Then came the call he'd been dreading, not from Ellie, but from her neighbor, Mrs. Gable, her voice tight with concern. Ellie had collapsed. Leo drove back to Ironwood Creek in a blur, the miles flashing past unnoticed, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He found her in a small room at the local community hospital, looking impossibly frail against the stark white sheets, an oxygen tube beneath her nose. But her eyes, though tired, were clear when they found his.
Voice thick with emotion, Ellie. I came as soon as I heard. How are you feeling?
A weak smile touches her lips, like I've run a long race, Leo. And I'm near the finish line. Don't you look so worried now. Sit here.
He pulled a chair close, taking her thin, cool hand in his. All his medical knowledge felt useless, hollow, in the face of this inevitable decline. They talked for hours, quietly reminiscing, Ellie speaking with surprising peace about her life, her voice soft but steady.
You were the best part, Leo. Best thing that ever happened to me. Seeing you grow. Seeing you chase this dream. It's more than I ever hoped for. Don't you let anything stop you now. Live it fully. For both of us.
Tears streaming down his face. I wouldn't be here without you, Ellie. Everything I am, you gave me that. I should have.
Squeezing his hand gently shook. You did just fine, my boy. More than fine. You made an old woman very, very proud. Now just stay a while.
He stayed, holding her hand, long after her breathing grew shallow and finally ceased altogether. The grief was immense, a physical weight pressing down on him. The small funeral a few days later was attended by neighbors, old friends of Ellie's, their presence a quiet testament to the community resilience that still flickered in Ironwood Creek. A week later, another call came, this one from Mr. Harrison.
Mr. Miller. My condolences on your loss. Mrs. Vance was a remarkable woman. My client, Mr. Sterling, has also been informed and expresses his sympathies. He requests a meeting, at your convenience.
Leo agreed, numbly. He met Arthur Sterling not in a gleaming office tower, but in a quiet sunroom at a nearby assisted living facility where Sterling now resided. The years had bent the industrialist's frame. He sat bundled in a blanket, looking out at the gardens, but the sharp intelligence in his eyes was undimmed.
Leo. Good to see you, son. Harrison tells me you're nearly finished. Dr. Miller soon, eh?
Yes, sir. Mr. Sterling. I never got to properly thank you. For everything. You changed my life.
Waving a frail hand dismissively, nonsense. An opportunity, that's all. You seized it. Watched you from a distance, you know. Proud of how you handled yourself. That incident at the academy showed true grit. Ellie raised you well. But it was that first day, the sandwich, you reminded an old cynic what matters. Kindness, Leo. It's the only investment that truly pays dividends in the end. My belief in you, it was well placed.
Thank you, sir. More than I can say.
It was a brief meeting, a quiet closing of a circle. Leo left with Arthur Sterling's words echoing in his mind, the weight of Ellie's loss settling into a quiet resolve. Grief was there, profound and aching, but beside it now stood purpose, clear and undeniable. He knew what Ellie would want. He knew what he had to do. Not just become a doctor, but become Ironwood Creek's doctor. And so Leo returned, not just to the town shaped by the shadow of the Sterling Mill, but to the heart of its struggles and its strength. Years later, the sign outside the small clinic on Main Street reads, Ironwood Creek Community Health. Inside, Dr. Leo Miller, his face etched with the lines of long hours and shared concerns, listens patiently to an elderly patient, his quiet kindness as steady and unassuming as it was years ago by a rusting railway bridge. Dr. Ramirez, now a respected senior colleague, sometimes jokes about Leo having the patience of a saint, a comment Leo usually just answers with a quiet smile. He didn't just escape Ironwood Creek. He brought his skills, his purpose, back to the community that raised him, embodying the resilience he learned from Ellie. His life stands as a quiet testament to the unpredictable ripple effect of small gestures. A half sandwich, offered without expectation, ignited a spark that fueled an education, built bridges across social divides, and ultimately returned as a source of healing and care for the town itself. Arthur Sterling called kindness the only investment that truly pays dividends. Dr. Leo Miller's daily work is the living proof of that return. It reminds us that while we may not choose our beginnings, we can choose how we respond to the world around us. Adversity doesn't have to extinguish compassion, and sometimes the simplest act of sharing what little we have can echo through years, building a legacy not of wealth or status, but of enduring human connection.